Welcome to the show, everybody. I am Janae Adams. I'm a financial strategist who paid off $50,000 of debt in 2 years. And I have been sharing that story around the world on stages across the world for over 15 years. And this is my YouTube show that I started maybe like a month ago. And the whole goal of this show is to help you with your finances, to give you the latest news topics. And although those news topics may be complex, I want to make them simple for you so that you can make the decisions that you need to make with your money. And so the stories we're going to talk about today are a range of topics. We're covering higher education or college and international students. We are talking about how to bring extra money in. We are talking about SpaceX, Lisa Cook. We have a lot of stories to cover today. And so I am going to get started with the one you probably care the most about, and that's bringing in extra money. Now, I wasn't even going to do this on the show, but I was doing a podcast earlier. Actually, it wasn't a podcast, it was a radio show interview. I was being interviewed about how people can financially invest into their future depending on what their ages are, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60 plus. And they're looking to, retire in the future, those kind of things. But one of the questions that the radio host asked me was about what if people have cut back as much as they can cut back? There's nothing else they can cut back, especially in this economy. Everything is higher than it used to be. And she was saying, what else can I do? Now, I shared my story of when I was paying out the 50 grand of debt that I taught tennis for $25 an hour. So I was telling people on the radio show to think about what your skills and your talents are and what you can do to make money from them. Well, I want to add one more thing. Whenever it's interviews like this, whether it's TV, whether it's radio, whether it's a podcast, I have to keep my answers short. But on my show, I can make them as long as I want. So we're going to add another tip in there. And that is being able to do paid surveys. That is what I also did when I was paying off the 50 grand of debt and what I do now. So back then it was making extra money to pay towards the debt. Now it's putting money in my pocket and to use it for saving. And I'm going to put a link in the notes of the show of some paid survey sites. But what I wanted to tell you is that these paid survey sites, different ones, you could have one that may do research studies that you can participate in person or online that can pay you money. And I think the highest I've ever received. Now, this is how I paid to go to me and my daughter to go to Barcelona, Spain. I used this money. It was a $500 sleep study for an airplane seat. $500. And then our tickets were, I think, $600 to go to Barcelona together. And it was $600 because we needed to sit together. So I had to pay a little bit extra. But either way, that came off of a survey site that had an in-person research study. So that's the kind of surveys I'm talking about. And you have other surveys that are quicker. They may be 3 minutes and you get $5, or they may be 20 minutes and you get $20. It's all different kinds. Some of them are a dollar, but they're quick. Either way, it's money, and you just sitting there and doing surveys. So I'm gonna put a link in the show notes that you can click on, and those are some survey sites for you to be able to look at. Okay, so that was another way to bring in extra money, because just understand, if you have cut out or cut back as much as you can in your monthly expenses, the next step is going to have to be you got to bring some more money in another way. And that is, like I said, using your hobbies, your skills to make money, or those paid survey sites, or even selling things. That is a whole nother show that we can talk about. But yes, when you can't cut anymore, you have to start to bring in some more money. And so that is something to think about. But let's go to the next story. The next story also has to do with your money, and that is about Federal Reserve member Lisa Cook. Okay. Lisa Cook has been in the bullseye of the Trump administration for almost a year. Now, why is she in the bullseye? Well, you can see her and you see one reason. But another reason is that the Trump administration, especially President Trump, wants to reduce interest rates. to make him look good in the midst of every economic policy that's making that of his that's making interest rates have to go up in a minute. Right now they're steady, right? But inflation is going up so fast that the Federal Reserve is probably going to have to raise interest rates. And he doesn't want that. So he's been trying to find out ways. First, it was the reserve chair, Jerome Powell. Then it was Lisa Cook. And he was just trying to find people that he can put on the Federal Reserve to be able to do what he wants them to do. The problem with that and how it affects your money, because that's what this show is about. When I tell, news stories, what does it mean for you and your wallet? Well, here's what it means. When you have the Federal Reserve, which is not a political group. This group is unbiased. They think about the country and the money and how everything flows and how to make sure we decrease inflation and keep job employment high. Okay, that's what they do. And so if you put people on there that does what not only this president or any other president wants them to do, that puts our money at risk. That puts the entire economy at risk. And we don't want that. We want the economy to run the right way. So the Supreme Court today ruled that as of right now, he cannot fire Lisa Cook. So this is very good news for your wallet. And that is definitely a topic and a news story that you want to continue to follow. Next story. This is about international students. International students, immigration, it costs money. It makes this country lose money. And when this country loses money, we as the people lose money in one way or the other. So a new report came out that because of the crackdown on international students being able to go to college here, the economy has lost $500 billion. Now, I would dare to say it's way more than 500 billion. I think that's a low number. Because when international students come into this country to go to college, first and foremost, many of the times they have to pay majority of the cost. Now, students in the United States, in state, out of state, doesn't matter. They get access to Pell Grants, they get access to uh, federal student loans, they get access to different scholarships that you only could be a U.S. citizen. They get access to money. International students a lot of times have to foot the bill and bring money in. So institutions love international students because they are paying more of the cost while United States students are being subsidized a lot of the time, right? So when I say that $500 billion dollars is a low number, it is because when those international students come in into college, they may rent apartments, they definitely eat out, they shop, they participate in the U.S. economy. Their money that their parents send, that they work for, gets spent inside the U.S. economy and the local economy. So when in last August, September, October, November, those college towns started to feel the burden of the administration's immigrations and basically negative outlook of international students. And they took it one step further. Not only were they keeping students from coming in, they were making it harder for the students that have studied here to get sponsored for visas to work here once they graduated, right? And they made it the cost at the time, and I think it's gotten rescinded, but companies don't know that $100,000 per person per visa. So if you wanted somebody from another country to work for your company, you had to pay $100,000 for them to work there. How ridiculous, because they didn't want them to stay. So this country that has benefited from many who have come here in one way or another, now you're sending that intelligence back to their country, which I'm sure their country loves. And it's going to benefit them more. I seen this brilliant young man on social media. He's from Ghana and he's trying to stay in the United States. And he was one of those people that he already got the job, got the career off the bat because he was the most qualified. But because they didn't want to pay $100,000 for his visa, now he has 6 months before he has to leave the country. He's already created a business that he's making money from. The man is super brilliant. And in my head, I like, why won't you just go back to Ghana and build up Ghana? Like, stop, don't beg to be here. Seriously, because a lot of the international students went back to their countries. Imagine how their country would be leaps and bounds by having their intelligence there instead of here. If it, I, I would have went back. I would have went back, figured out a way, or build that business here, make it international, and go home and make my money and spend it in my own economy and build up my own country. That's just me. But a lot of people still feel the American dream and all that kind of stuff. It is very hard for international students and people who are international right now in this country. So that's just me. That's what I would do. Okay. So I honestly think that $500 billion number that they quoted is too low. I think it's much more than that. Okay. I think it's much more than that. Now, on to our next story. This story is about the hoopla around SpaceX. Remember, SpaceX went public here recently. And when they went public, it supposedly made Elon Musk a trillionaire. Well, a week later, it's done lost a lot of value. He is no longer a trillionaire because it wasn't a great stock to begin with. You look at it, it didn't make sense. The fact, none of it. I'm not a financial advisor at all, and I don't give stock tips and all that kind of stuff. I didn't say buy the stock or don't buy the stock in first. And I'm not saying that now. I'm saying just look at the numbers. Jay-Z said, men lie, women lie, numbers don't. And the numbers weren't lying before it went public. And now you see what has happened and all the value it has lost in the meantime. So if you're someone that is want to invest, please do your homework. That's just simple advice. Please do your homework before you do anything. This is your money. And the wrong decisions can make you lose your money. Okay? Now, our last story has to do with a date that is a couple of days away. Today is June 29th. But this is one date that has filled the headlines for the last month, and it is July 1st. And July 1st is all about the student loan changes that came from the big, beautiful bill. Now, I have been telling people for a month, July 1st does not apply to majority of student loan borrowers. It just doesn't. But because there's so much noise on social media, it gets very confusing for those who are in repayment. And I'm not going to cover everything I've covered on other shows. Make sure you watch the other shows that I covered on there and talked about student loan repayment and all the changes. But I will say this. Understand that lawsuits are continuing on. And so as of today, as of this show that you're watching on June 29th, they are now talking about that starting July 1st, people who are in the SAVE program have 90 days from July 1st once they receive their letter. And understand, it doesn't matter if you have 90 days or a little bit more than 90 days. The truth is, as long as you stay in SAVE, your student loan balance is growing. And you're thinking to yourself, if I'm at forgiveness, then that doesn't matter. That is true because at the end, it will be forgiven. But also know, the longer you stay in it, the months are not counting towards your forgiveness. So I'll say this again. Please, if you're someone who think you can pay the monthly payment and you are ready to continue to move forward and let your months count towards forgiveness, then get into a plan. All right. And I'll give you another tip that I wasn't even going to share on the show today, but I will share it on the show. Understand that for some, the new RAP program that is coming out in a few days, July 1st, because honestly, to help you understand, that July 1st date was really about all the student loan caps changes. It's really about the new student loan repayment plan changes, people who need to consolidate. It really wasn't as much about those in repayment. Just a few. people, like Parent Plus loan people. They needed to do stuff for July 1st, but the rest of you all, it really wasn't for you. And so it's just it was just bad timing with letters, emails from the Department of Education and July 1st coming out and it made everybody freak out. But I will tell you this, RAP is coming out. RAP and the new standard plan will be the only two student loan repayment plans available for anyone who takes out a new loan after July 1st who's never been in repayment before. Okay. RAP will look tempting to some, but please understand, and unless you're in PSLF and for 10 years, it will be 30 years long. And you get in it and you're saying, you know what, I don't want to be in it 30 years anymore. I want to switch back to these other plans that I'm available for. And guess what? The time you spent paying in RAP will not transfer to anything else. So I am telling you, as someone who has dealt in this space for over 15 years, you better really think about if you're a student loan borrower, you are somebody who's going to be in repayment or is in repayment, you honestly need to take your time and look at your options, look at all the numbers. Okay. I have been sitting down with people over the last couple of weeks. I got clients this week, and I'm sure I have clients next week because, like I said, the July 1st date doesn't matter for a lot of people. And we are sitting down and we are looking at the numbers, not just the monthly payments. We're looking at the numbers because what the numbers say for your personal situation is what the strategy will be based on. And everyone I've met with, they are saying, how was I going to know any of this? I said, well, that's why you're meeting with me because I understand it. I know what questions you need to ask the Department of Education before you reach out to your student loan services so you are able to get in the best plans possible. This is what you need to know in a couple of years when these plans go away and you have to switch to this plan. All of that, these you have to sit down and really understand what you're getting yourself into. Because people have not been paying for a few years now because they've been in administrative forbearance, and now it is a new day. And they are trying to get as much of their money back as possible. And these student loan servicers will help them do that. And if you don't know what you're doing, you can end up paying longer and you can end up paying more than you're supposed to. So please take your time when you're looking at these new student loan repayment plans and your different options. Okay? So I want to thank you all for watching the show today. Thank you for joining me. Please make sure that you like the video, invite other people to the channel, subscribe if you haven't subscribed at all, comment if you have any questions. And like I said, I will put the link for the surveys where you make money in the show notes. Okay, so make sure you check it out there. And I also will put the link to the Department of Education for studentaid.gov. So if you're saying to yourself, I can't get anybody on the phone at my student loan servicer, I can't find my information on student loan servicer, they haven't posted it, go to studentaid.gov. I'm going to put that in the show notes so you can, guess what? Go look at your account for yourself. All right. So thank you once again to everybody for joining me today. And I hope you enjoyed the show. Once again, subscribe, like, and share with others. I'm Janae Adams, and I look forward to seeing you all next time on the next show.